Emeline Crowhurst knew how to become invisible. In a house like Wrenfield Manor, invisibility was survival. She walked the long, cold hallways, dusted the golden frames, and polished the marble floors, but no one ever looked at her. Not properly. To the Pendletons, she was just another maid in a black dress and white apron. But Emeline saw everything. She had worked in the manor for 3 years, yet it still whispered secrets to her when no one else was listening. That morning, as sunlight spilled through the stained glass, Emeline's fingers traced the carved patterns on an old bookshelf in Lady Eleanor Pendleton's study. A small click echoed. A drawer slid open where none should have existed. Inside, folded and yellowed with age, were letters tied with a faded green ribbon. Her hands trembled as she untied them. The handwriting was elegant, but the words felt heavy. My dearest Celestine, if you ever return to Wrenfield, know that not all doors are closed to you. They will try to erase you, but they cannot erase the blood in your veins. Or Heiress. Emeline's heart pounded. Her mother's name was Celestine. She had spoken of Wrenfield once, long ago, with bitterness sharp as broken glass. But Emeline had never understood why. She found a locket beneath the letters. It clicked open to reveal a small photograph. Her mother, younger, radiant, standing beside a woman with silver-streaked hair. Lady Eleanor. The words in the letters blurred as her vision stung with tears. Lady Eleanor hadn't disowned her daughter out of hatred. Someone else had. Someone who now lived in this manor and wore their family name like a crown. That evening, the manor prepared for Victor Pendleton's engagement party. The staff scrambled under his sharp orders. Victor, with his cruel smile and polished shoes, was the future of the Pendletons. His fiancée, Arabella, walked beside him, her face painted with forced joy. Victor passed Emeline without a glance, though their blood shared the same roots. He didn't know. None of them knew. But the letters had awakened something in her. A fire that wouldn't go quiet this time. Later that night, Emeline returned to Lady Eleanor's study. She read every word of the letters until she found the one that froze her breath. If I disappear, it will not be an accident. Alfred knows what he's capable of. I fear for Celestine, and for the child she carries. Alfred. Victor's father. The room seemed colder now. The secrets of Wrenfield Manor weren't buried. They were alive, breathing beneath its walls. And Emeline Crowhurst had just found the key. The next morning, Emeline's hand shook as she polished the grand staircase. From above, Victor Pendleton's laughter echoed, sharp and hollow. He leaned over the banister, charming guests with his empty words, his eyes gleaming like he already owned the world. Emeline wondered if he even knew about the letters, about the truth written in Lady Eleanor's fragile handwriting. Probably not. Men like Victor didn't read history, they buried it. As Emeline dusted the old portraits, her gaze met Lady Eleanor's painted eyes. The matriarch had once ruled this manor with dignity, but her face had been reduced to a silent picture, a relic in a house that forgot its own sins. Emeline couldn't stop hearing that line. If I disappear, it will not be an accident. She found herself near the drawing room, where Arabella sat alone, staring into a cup of untouched tea. Her smile had cracked. Emeline hesitated. She was just a maid. She wasn't supposed to speak. But the weight of silence had become unbearable. Miss Arabella, Emeline said softly, her voice barely more than a breath. Arabella looked up, startled. No one called her by name unless they wanted something. But Emeline wasn't begging. I know why you don't want this engagement, Emeline said. And I know what Victor did to Lady Eleanor. Arabella's porcelain face paled. Her lips parted, but no words came. The teacup rattled in her trembling hands. Who are you? Arabella whispered, glancing nervously at the closed door. I'm the daughter they erased, Emeline said, heart pounding. Celestine's daughter. This house belongs to my blood, even if they've scrubbed it clean of me. The silence that followed was so heavy it felt like it could shatter the walls. Arabella's eyes welled with tears. I know what Victor is, she said, her voice breaking. But his father has leverage. If I speak, my family loses everything. I'm trapped. I understand trapped, Emeline said. But the difference is, I don't care what they take from me. They already took it all. The two women sat in that fragile moment. Two different worlds, stitched together by pain. Arabella wiped her tears, and for the first time, she looked at Emeline not as a servant, but as an ally. There's proof, Arabella whispered. Victor's father kept records. He was meticulous. There are letters, deeds, even Lady Eleanor's will. But it's hidden in the West Wing study. No one is allowed in there. Emeline's pulse quickened. She'd never been beyond the West Wing's locked doors. It was Victor's territory. That night, the manor shimmered with music and champagne. The engagement party had begun, but beneath the glitter, the ground was shifting. Emeline slipped through the servant corridors, her heart pounding like a drum. Arabella had discreetly passed her the key. Small, cold, dangerous. She reached the West Wing study. The air was thick with dust, as if the room itself had been holding its breath for years. Inside, the desk drawers were locked, but Emeline's hands were relentless. She found a false bottom beneath a drawer. Papers, ledgers, and a letter sealed with Lady Eleanor's personal crest. To be opened only by Celestine's rightful heir. Tears blurred Emeline's vision as she held the letter. The house that had shunned her, that had turned her into a shadow, was now offering her a voice. Footsteps. Emeline froze. Victor stood at the doorway, his smile thin and venomous. Well, the little maid has found herself in the wrong room. But Emeline wasn't invisible anymore. Victor's eyes gleamed with mockery as he stepped into the study, his polished shoes making soft, deliberate clicks against the wooden floor. Emeline stood still, clutching Lady Eleanor's sealed letter, though her heart was slamming against her ribs. You're braver than I thought, Victor said, circling her like a hawk. But brave doesn't mean clever. Do you really think a maid's word can dent the Pendleton name? Emeline's hands trembled, but she didn't lower her gaze. I'm not just a maid. I'm Celestine Pendleton's daughter. And this manor has a way of bringing ghosts back, Victor. He paused, his smirk faltering for a split second. That was enough. You know it's all in here, Emeline said, nodding towards the papers. The letters, the will, everything your father buried. I could take this to the press, or maybe the board of trustees. They'd love a scandal about Wrenfield's golden heir. Victor's laugh was sharp, but brittle. You won't. Because it would ruin you, too. You'd be the headline no one forgets. The maid who claimed to be a Pendleton. You'd be a joke. I don't care about their name, Emeline said, her voice low but fierce. I care about the truth. I care about the fact that Lady Eleanor didn't want this house to belong to vultures. I care about my mother, who died believing she was worthless because of people like you. The words sliced through the air. Victor's jaw tightened. At that moment, Arabella appeared at the doorway, her face pale but determined. You should listen to her, Victor, she said. We've both been quiet for too long. But tonight, the walls of Wrenfield Manor will echo with what you've tried to bury. Victor's arrogance flickered into something darker. If you think you can blackmail me. It's not blackmail, Emeline cut in. It's choice. You give up the manor. You transfer its ownership to a trust that helps the people this family has trampled. You walk away with your reputation intact. Or, we expose every rotten piece of this house. Your father's lies. Your lies. The engagement party becomes your funeral. The silence felt like a crack of thunder. Victor's eyes darted between Emeline and Arabella. For the first time, he was the one cornered. You think you can change the Pendleton legacy with a piece of paper? Victor hissed. No, Emeline said softly. But I can change what it stands for. The confrontation hung in the air, thick with tension. Then Victor's shoulders slumped. He knew he had lost. Fine, he spat. But don't think for a second you belong here. I never did, Emeline whispered. But I belong to myself. Morning light bathed Wrenfield Manor in soft gold, but it no longer felt cold. The halls, once filled with secrets and hushed cruelties, now breathed freely. Emeline stood at the grand balcony overlooking the estate's gardens. The air tasted different, lighter, honest. Victor had left that very night. Not a dramatic exit, no thunderous storm of rage. He left with quiet defeat, a man who realized too late that a house built on lies can't stand forever. Alfred Pendleton's old misdeeds, the forged documents, Lady Eleanor's hidden will, all of it was now in the hands of the trustees, just as Arabella and Emeline had promised. The manor no longer belonged to a family name. It belonged to the people it had once silenced. Arabella joined Emeline on the balcony, her face softer, no longer masked with the fragile smile of high society. "It feels strange, doesn't it?" she said, breathing without pretending. Emeline smiled, a real, unforced smile. "It feels like the house is breathing too." They had spent the last week turning the manor into something new. The West Wing, once sealed and guarded, was now opened as a library and community hall. Lady Eleanor's letters and journals, once locked away, were displayed in glass cases, her story told without shame. But for Emeline, it wasn't about walls or portraits anymore. It was about Celestine. That evening, Emeline walked to the old Pendleton family cemetery tucked away behind the gardens. The headstone was simple, marked only with Celestine Crowhurst. There was no family crest, no grand epitaph. Emeline knelt, placing a single white lily on the grave. "I think you'd have liked what we've done," she whispered, her voice trembling. "They tried to erase you. They tried to erase me. But we are still here. And we are not hiding anymore." The wind rustled through the trees, as if answering. A soft voice called behind her. "There's someone who'd like to meet you." Emeline turned to see Arabella, standing with an elderly woman, thin, frail, but with eyes that mirrored Emeline's own. "This is Miss Havisham," Arabella said. She was Lady Eleanor's personal companion for many years. She knew Celestine. Miss Havisham approached, her hands clasped tightly around a small box. "Your mother was the bravest girl I ever knew," she said gently. "And you're the proof that Eleanor's love didn't die in silence." Emeline took the box with trembling hands. Inside was the locket, restored, gleaming, with 2 new photographs placed inside. One of Lady Eleanor and Celestine, the other of Emeline. For the first time, Emeline didn't feel like an outsider peering in through glass windows. She was part of the story now. Not because of her blood, but because she had chosen to stand and fight when it mattered. As the sun set behind Wrenfield Manor, painting the sky in hues of fire and gold, Emeline stood taller. The manor was no longer a place of shame. It was hers now, not in name, but in spirit. Legacies are not written by those who shout the loudest, but by those who refuse to stay silent. The courage to stand up for buried truths can heal generations. If this story moved you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more powerful stories that inspire, challenge, and stay with you.